T-Votes 2024.
An ABC Alice Springs election special. Namatjira.
Very good morning. Welcome to the first of our electorate profiles here on ABC Alice Springs, across the centre, across the Barkly and on the ABC Listen app. I should say very good morning actually to Lara Stimpson, because she joins us as well.
Good morning. Yes. What am I doing here?
You've got the computer. Are you being Anthony Green? Are you with the computer?
Yeah. Channeling the guy.
Yeah, it's a bit early. It's a bit early for election results, but thank you. Lara Stimpson will be helping as we ask the two candidates we've invited into the studio here to talk about their story for Namatjira. We'll be hearing from Bill Yan, the current member, CLP member, and Sheralee Taylor for Labor, who ran in this seat as well last time in the 2020 election. NT Australian of the Year, Blair McFarlane, we heard yesterday, has announced his candidacy for the Greens in the seat of Namatjira, but as we understand it, this morning he is out bush, possibly on a hill.
NT Votes 2024. Analysing the issues that count.
I think issues at the moment, it's all crime.
Health, policing, schooling.
I'm not really interested because I'm over corrupt governments.
Totally agree.
Heard on the radio earlier that the Northern Territory doesn't gain anything out of any of the gas that gets exported out of here.
Just over the years I've noticed the youth crime has increased dramatically.
Health and education are right throughout the Northern Territory.
The 2024 Northern Territory election on ABC Alice Springs and the ABC Listen app.
This is the first of our election specials covering each electorate in the centre and the Barkly. You and I, Brashy, will be doing this over the next 2 and a bit weeks. Each Tuesday and Thursday at this time, we've invited all of the candidates to appear for a debate. If they show up, that's great. If not, you'll hear about it. But either way, this is the time to interrogate the issues that matter in each part of our region here on ABC Alice Springs.
Well, let's just look at the seat of Namatjira itself. Obviously named for Albert Namatjira, the renowned watercolourist from Hermannsburg. He became the first Aboriginal person to be granted restricted Australian citizenship and allowed him to vote. The name of the seat is slightly ironic, given the seat no longer actually contains Namatjira's home community of Ndare Hermannsburg, which now sits in Gwadja. Now, the boundaries of the division covers the southeast corner of the Northern Territory. It is a hybrid seat, which comprises both urban parts of Alice Springs and remote central Australia. In Alice, it includes the town camps of the town, Dixon Road, North Edge, Larapinta, Morris Soak, Mount Johns, and all of the rural areas south of the Gap, including Ross Highway, Kilgareth, Ilpapa, Canellan and White Gums. And of course, spread across the remote part of the seat, cattle stations and communities such as Amungana, Atitchera, Fink, Santa Teresa and Titchakala, and takes in a size of 198,000 square kilometres. At the last election, there were 5,728 enrolled voters. Now, I'll just touch on the history for a tick. Now, the division was created for the first Legislative Assembly elections in 1974 and formerly known as McDonnell, of course, after McDonnell Rangers, which sat in the seat. It was renamed Namatjira in 2011. Now, significant former members include Labor's Neil Bell, who held the seat from 81 to 97, and I believe that is the longest time any member has been in opposition in Australia in one seat. He never went into government, Neil Bell. CLP's John Elfrink won it in 97, held it to 2005 when Labor regained it through Alison Anderson. Now, Anderson quit the party in 2009 to sit as an independent, but joined the Country Liberals in 2011 and she retained the seat, now called Namatjira, in 2012 for the CLP. She left the party in 2014, had a dalliance with Palmer United and finished her tenure in Namatjira in 2016 as an independent. Former Alice Springs Town Councillor Chancey Paik won the seat for Labor in 2016, but after a redistribution made Namatjira a hybrid remote urban seat. Mr Paik contested and won the seat of Gwadja. Let's look at last time, the election in 2020. We saw two-party preferred, 49.7 to Sheralee Taylor, Bill Yan 50.3. There were 22 votes in it. And of course, the election last time was made very interesting because of the presence of Alice Springs now Mayor Matt Patterson. He ran a strong campaign, came third with 22% of the primary vote. Lara.
Now, first up, each of you have a minute to deliver your election pitch. Brash, we're going to decide who goes first by a toss of the coin.
Sheralee, what's your call?
Tails.
Tails. It is Tails it is.
Tails it is. All right, I'm the timekeeper, though. Brash will sound the alarm at the end. Sheralee, your time starts now.
Yeah, I'm Sheralee Taylor. I have been born and bred in Alice Springs, raised my family here, and still got many connections to Alice Springs, the Territory, and particularly in Namatjira. So for me, Namatjira electorate is probably a bit, personal as well in terms of where I want it to go and where I want it, the future vision for Namatjira, but also Central Australia. So I'm about investing in particularly the preventative stuff, so preventative of crime, preventative of health conditions, and that probably goes back to, over 15 years in the health sector. But, I'm out there and I will be a strong advocate for Namatjira, for the people of Namatjira, including infrastructure, and addressing those hard issues and having those hard conversations and getting the stuff done for the electorate. No, I'm waiting. I can see Brashy, so I'm like, it's going to go soon.
And ta-da!
Sheralee.
I'm going to need to wait to lift it, I think.
I was trying to look at the phone so I could see the time.
That is your time. You're a little bit under. You don't have to use the whole minute if you don't like. Probably a good reminder for that as well.
I will not raise my hooter. As you heard, this is the official ABC hooter, which will mark time on each of the candidates as we go through. But to Bill Yan.
Starts us now.
Cheers. Thanks, Brashy. Look, I've been living in Alice Springs now for 31 years. Alice Springs is my home. Raised 2 kids here. Very passionate about the town and very passionate about the bush as well. So I got into politics after I've seen the slow social decline in our community here over a number of years. And rather than being a part of the problem, I thought I'd stand up and do something about it. And I stuck my hand up to get into politics to try and make that change and work for the people in the electorate. So I've been a member now for the past 4 years. Been working very hard for the people out in the bush to make sure that they get their fair share and their little piece of the pie, because they all too often get forgotten out there. But also, of course, working for the people in the rural area and helping out around the community and working for the people out there in Lara. We're seeing some horrendous stuff around crime. You've only got to look at what happened over the weekend and just last night. And I want to turn that around. I want to take our community back to the vibrant place that it once was, and that is why I'm here working for us. How was that, Brashy? On the nose.
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep my hooter out of sight for the rest of the program. But thank you. That's the election pictures from both Sheralee Taylor and Bill Yan.
Now, the next part of the special will cover 3 different topics: the economy, crime and community safety, and quality of life in Namatjira. You each have a minute to respond to the question we ask of you. Once you've both finished, you'll get the opportunity to ask a question of each other. You can use it, you don't have to, but please keep your responses to those questions tight. About 30 seconds is what we'll time it to.
NT Votes 2024. Analysing the issues that count. On ABC Alice Springs and the ABC Listener.
It's 20 to 9. Bill, we're sticking with the economy. First question for you. Come August 24, the Territory's eye-watering debt could be your responsibility as you are Shadow Treasurer. What will you do to keep that debt under control?
Yeah, and that's a great question too, Brashy. We're at $11.1 billion in debt, and that increased by $2 billion just in the last 6 months on the promises from Labor coming into the election. Look, our commitment is to bring in the Territory Coordinator and play to our strengths, to start to drive our own source revenue through agriculture and the opportunities within mining. Now, we're seeing difficulties for investors to come to the Territory because of the red tape and the issues they have dealing with government. So that's why we're bringing in the Territory Coordinator position. That position will work outside of government and will be a conduit for businesses and enterprises looking to invest in the Territory to then drive government departments to come up with some of those outcomes that are needed to grow our own source revenue. We can't sit back and continue to rely on the federal government to bail us out with GST funding. We need to drive our economy forward, because that extra money then is able to be invested in the things that we like to do here in the Territory.
Well done, Bill Yan, keeping within time there on the economy. Lara?
For Sheralee, the Chief Minister is an enthusiastic backer of fracking as a way to boost the Territory's flagging revenue. How strongly do you support the industry, and what other measures will the Labor government use to address the debt?
Yeah, look, I think the economy is very important, particularly for the Territory, and we know exactly where our Chief Minister sits in terms of fracking. But what we need to do is grow our own. If you look, You can't be what you can't see. And so, the investment over $100 million into vocational education, I think is essential to get our territory, and particularly our young people, the opportunity to work. The investment in schools is, never heard of before, so that's a great thing. We need to get our young people to school, get them into jobs, get them into education. Some of them want to go off to university, that's great. Some of them want to do vocational education, and that's great too. So we need to get the territory working, we need to provide opportunities for people, and we need to get not only investment into the territory, but we need to grow our own.
Okay. You may now ask each other a question on the economy, if you like.
Sheralee, would you like to ask Bill the first question?
Yeah, so the CLP obviously talk about the territory control. To me, it sounds like a great job for one of their CLP mates on a good salary. How will that actually change, and what will that mean for the Chief Minister when that should be her role?
Well, Labor actually introduced two positions to drive the economy within the government departments up there, and so far we haven't seen much in the way of outcomes from those two people. And they're like ECO2, ECO3 positions. We're talking $300,000-$400,000 each for those, and we haven't seen anything come out of that. So where the territory coordinator sits is outside of government, an individual person who is not beholden to government, who will drive that investment and drive those government departments to get the outcomes that are required to develop industry and business.
30 seconds. Thank you for your response there, Bill Yan. Bill, do you have a question for Sheralee about the economy?
Yeah, Sheralee, now I heard you talk about education and some of the other things as part of the Labor plan, but that's all federal investment into the economy here. What is Territory Labor going to do to drive the economy here in Central Australia so that we can boost our own source revenue and create wealth and vibrancy for our community?
Yeah, Bill, I'm not sure if you weren't listening to my answer, but the answer is we need to get people in the territory, our people who are already here, out in the workforce. We need to obviously include those investors coming into the territory, and we'll always have people coming to the territory from interstate for those professional roles. But I want to see a territory where we go to the hospital, and we've got someone who was born in the territory, who's the doctor, who's the nurse, who's the person, who's the medical clerk.
30 seconds is tight.
Thank you, Sheralee. It's 16 to 9. You're on ABC Alice Springs. Myself, Lara Stimpson. We have two of the candidates for the major parties in the seat of Namatjira. As you said, Greens candidate Blair McFarlane was announced yesterday and is not available to speak to us today, but we'll continue asking questions of the candidates here on ABC Alice Springs.
The 2024 Northern Territory election. Analysing the issues that count on ABC Alice Springs and the ABC Listen app.
Along with the economy, crime and community safety is going to be one of the big issues and has already become one of the big issues for this election. Sheralee, now Labor's had 8 years to get crime under control here in the Northern Territory. If given another 4, what will Labor do differently to address crime and community safety in your part of the world?
Yeah, look, I think the answer here is we need to invest in those preventative measures, such as education, making sure that people are going to school and they're getting an education that can then lead them to vocational training, jobs, or university, whatever people choose. It's about an opportunity. So we need to address those, but we've seen an investment in police, which is, again, we haven't heard of before, and that's also essential because we want to know that when we call the police, that we get them, and we also get someone that comes out. The other model, community people have been talking to me about antisocial behaviour. Now, we need to address that. That's not particularly a police matter, so we need to look at models that will work to address those things. That doesn't necessarily provide a police response. So that's something that I would advocate for strongly if I was elected. And I think we also need to ensure that those people who are committing offences actually have the opportunity to turn their life around through education and therapeutical services.
Bang on.
You're getting the feel for a minute now.
I think our candidates have really got a sense of what a minute looks like. So thank you, Sheralee.
Got to see that in the chamber, Brash. I've got to see that with the speaker.
I will give it to the next Speaker of the House.
For Bill Yan, the CLP has marketed itself as tough on crime. What non-punitive measures will you introduce to make the community safer?
Yeah, sure. Funnily enough, just in the last month or two, I've been speaking to the men from the Four Corners group here in Central Australia. And Four Corners Corners is the group that it contains the 4 language groups that sit around the community. And we've been talking about some of those social order issues which are not specifically police. So talking to those men and talking about how we can empower them to be able to provide those responses to work with their own people, I think is quite key. So we need to work on how we empower those men to be able to, and those women, of course, within that group, to work with those people in the communities to start to deliver some of those social outcomes to change some of that narrative that we're certainly seeing here in town. Of course, there's a number of other things. We've got Sentence to a Skill, which is not exactly punitive. This is about skills development and education so that people who come into contact with the justice system, particularly young people, will come out the other side with actually some skills and some vocational education. Then they can take back to the community and also starts to make them job ready.
Got a feel for the minute. I think your job's becoming redundant.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying having the hooter.
All right, you've got the opportunity to ask a question of each other on crime and community safety. Bill, do you want to go first this time?
Yeah, sure. Sheralee, we've seen 8 years and we've seen crime increasing, we've seen assaults increasing, we've seen break-ins increasing. I want to know what Labor are going to do differently, because it's all well and good to say we've invested a pile of money in police, but in the last 8 years we haven't seen any outcomes, and we've seen the social and criminal order in our community going down with some of the highest rates in the country.
Yeah, look, I just want to point out that I haven't been in government, so if I'm elected, these are the things that I'm advocating for in terms of that. We want to see, yes, we want to see more police, but we also want to see more of that preventative stuff. We've got a huge investment in education, in the DV sector, I think, which is really important because we know the DV rates are rising, and that's not okay. That's not okay for anybody. So we need to see those investments coming in and working hard to make sure those programs work.
Thank you to you both.
Sheralee?
Yeah, Bill, CLP have come out and said they're, tough on crime. They want to lower the age to 10, which we know is not going to work because our prisons are full. Jailing is obviously failing, as you've said. And I just want to know what you think would be the response to, or what the benefit is of lowering the age to 10.
Yeah, and look, there's this misconception out there in the community that by lowering the age of criminal responsibility, we want to start putting more kids into detention. That is not the idea, and that's not what this is about. This lowering the age of criminal responsibility gives the courts the opportunity for kids that are coming into contact with the justice system between that 10 and 12-year-old age group. The courts have the ability then to send them on some programs or some interventions to stop that criminal behaviour continuing on and on and on. Because what we see happens is that we get to a point where kids are committing crimes, they continue to commit more and end up in detention.
Thank you, Bill. That is crime and community safety. It is 11 to 9. Next up, we're going to look at quality of life.
ABC Alice Springs, your experts in the 2024 Northern Territory election.
Quality of life, cost of living is going to be another big issue for so many people, both bush, in-town, remote and urban areas. Now, both of you will get the same question, but Bill, I'll start with you. How will you address the high cost of living in both town and remote parts of Namatjira?
Well, sadly, at the end of the day, the crime is having an effect on our cost of living here in Central Australia, whether we like it or not. Crime affects businesses, affects individuals, so it reduces the money that a normal person has in their pocket to be able to spend around town because they're dealing with stuff in their home. And, of course, businesses are being broken into and having criminal damage done, so they can't bear those costs. Those costs then get passed on to the consumer, which is everyday people from Central Australia. And, of course, that drives those costs up and, of course, means, again, less money in people's pockets. It's a very, very sad reality, and I heard it just this morning. Someone stopped on the side of the road to talk to me. All of a sudden, house broken into. Now they have to spend their money on roller shutters and improving security. And there's an all too common story all across our community where people, all the nice things that they like to do, they can't because they have to spend their money on dealing with crime and antisocial issues and effectively turning their houses into fortresses. And it's not a way that the people of Central Australia should be having to live.
Sheralee, how will you address the high cost of living in both the town and remote parts of Namatjira?
Yeah, look, I think we need to look at it as a holistic and realistic something that's happening in our community. And, investment in particularly remote areas in terms of infrastructure, we know in the bush football is a huge thing. And I can say, if elected, I'll be putting some change rooms out at Harts Range there for their sports. So this also allows people to have their own sports carnivals, which they do anyway, but also allows for bigger carnivals for economic development in those communities. So it allows for, the shops to then flourish and, turn over a higher profit during those times of the year. So, we need to start investing, and having activities for young people to do that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. If elected, I'll be implementing or putting in a half-court basketball court at Lara so young people have somewhere to go to actually let off, a bit of fun, have a bit of fun.
Got another question on the quality of life. Brash, over to you.
Yeah, now I was speaking about the Closing the Gap statistics, and we've seen from the latest report, Productivity Commission, the Territory is failing in 8 of the 19 Closing the Gap indicators. In your electorate, what is something you'll do to close the gap?
Yeah, thanks, Brashy. Look, and I worked on some of the Closing the Gap stuff back when I was in corrections. Corrections played a large part in that. I think health is key, first and foremost, in some of those Closing the Gap initiatives. And sadly, we've seen under Labor a number of our clinics in the bush being closed down and then only being resourced a few days a week. We need to be resourcing those clinics properly, and we also need to be providing better services out in the bush to those people there, because all too often we see the inability to deliver services in the bush, which means people have got to travel to town. And all too often they don't make that journey to town, or if they do, they miss an appointment, and then they get put on that revolving door, that waiting list. So health is key. I know that most people in the bush want to see Congress out there running their clinics, because Congress seem to have a better ability to be able to engage with community, employ community members to be able to deliver those all too important health services. And I think that's going to be key firstly into some of those Closing the Gap initiatives, because of course, economic development in communities is going to be key as well.
Sheralee, Closing the Gap statistics show the Territory is going backwards on 8 of the 19 indicators in the Namatjira. How will you close the gap?
Yeah, look, and just touching on the points Bill has made, health is a huge issue, which is why in previous roles I've advocated and we've managed to get the investment for a renal facility at Harts Range. So we'll see, people not having to come to Alice Springs, because we know when that happens is they come into town, they have to bring support with them to enable them to care for them. So that then also puts pressure on not only people in town, but also financial pressure in terms of, managing 2 households. So those kind of things do put pressure, and we need investment in the bush. So whether that's roads, housing, we've got a huge investment in housing, infrastructure. So that's, one of those things. We know community controlled is an essential part of closing that gap. And, I have worked in the community sector and happy to work with the community sector to make sure that what we're doing, whether it's in health, whether it's in justice or housing, that we're working with Aboriginal community control sector to get the best outcome for Territorians.
Well done. Everyone keeping in time at the moment. You do have the opportunity to ask a question of each other on quality of life. Bill, would you like to start off asking Sheralee your question?
Yeah, thank you. And look, I look at quality of life here in Central Australia, and I'd like to ask Sheralee, and representing Labor, why should the community of Central Australia provide a vote to the Labor Party when you look at the levels of crime and the increases in criminal behaviour that we're seeing in our community? Why should the people of Central Australia support Labor?
Look, I think Labor have been committed to providing essential services in terms of putting investment not only in the bush but in town to make sure that people have support services available when they need them. We know that, just locking someone up after they've committed a crime is not the answer in terms of why have they done it. We need to be looking at, is it mental health? Is it some of the social determinants of health? What can we do better to turn that around? And I think Labor's better at doing that.
We're coming to nearly to the end of our election special on Namatjira. Lara.
Yes, Sheralee, would you like to ask a question of Bill?
Yeah, just in terms of quality of life, I mean, if you listen to the CLP, they're just all about crime. I'd like to see what else policies that the CLP have in terms of quality of life.
Look, and I'm not going to sit here and make an apology for talking about crime in Central Australia. Crime is one of the biggest and most key issues facing the people of Central Australia currently. As I said, the weekend is an example of that. We need to look at the laws that the police have and give them some of the powers back to deal with some of the issues. But the one thing that we intend to do is put the rights of the community above the rights of the criminal. Because all too often at the moment we see the rights of the criminal come above the rights of the community, and that has to stop.
All right, we have come to the final question of today's election special for the seat of Namatjira here in ABC Alice Springs. You're both going to get the same question. You have a minute to respond. Sheralee, the election issues of this year have been known for a long time. Can you name a new initiative you'll bring to Namatjira that will be of long-term benefit to the electorate?
Yeah, look, speaking to lots of people out in the electorate, they just want to see investment, whether they live at Larapinta or Kilgareth, they want to see facilities, and I think that a strong advocate and a strong voice is what I will bring. I'll be, I'm not going to sit back and doesn't matter whether Labor's in government or the CLP are in government, I'm going to not sit back and let the electorate of Namatjira just flourish. I will be up there standing forefront and saying what the vision for Namatjira is, and that's about giving people opportunity, giving young people hope and jobs, working with all sectors, whether it's government, non-government, businesses, tourism. We need to be making sure that the electorate of Namatjira is working and we're making a better place for everybody to live and thrive in Central Australia.
Thank you, Sheralee. And finally, for you, Bill, the same question. We've known for a long time about this election. Can you name a new initiative that you'll bring to Namatjira that will be of long-term benefit to your electorate?
Look, we've certainly got a couple with the CLP. I think, firstly, for out in the bush, we want to bring back community councils. We understand we have the large regional councils, but we want to bring back a level of community councils to provide that leadership back out in communities so that they actually have a little bit of a say of what's happening in their communities. When we've seen the large regional councils come in back in 2006, it stripped leadership out of the bush, and everywhere I go and everybody I talk to in the bush wants to see that leadership come back. So we're committed to doing that. And also here in town, we announced just last week $5 million for the multicultural community. We have a lot of multicultural members in Namatjira to actually build a facility for them to use rather than having to use either the Marion Centre or the casino, which come at a huge cost. And a lot of these are NGOs and don't have a lot of money. And of course our announcement on the sports ground over there at Jim McConville to give rugby a home a lot quicker than what we're going to see, because we've seen them stripped of Anzac Oval. They've got nowhere to go at the moment, so that's another one of our pledges for this election.
The last time. That does bring us to the end of our first election special ahead of the Territory election on August 24. On Thursday between 8:30 and 9, the seat of Barkly will be in focus. The candidates in the hot seat, they've been invited. Whether they front up, we shall see. Bill Yan and Sheralee Taylor, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Lara. Thanks, Brashy.
Thank you all.